My name is Terry Muller. I represent Muller's Paint and Paper in the village of Caledonia. Pleased to be here today to bring what has been in newsprint form a series of tips. Terry's Tips, they're called. Sounded a little bit odd when I first was suggested that I take some of our paint knowledge, paint experience, and put it in newsprint, and now I'm kind of used to it, Terry's Tip. And then I was just in the last few months asked by Caledonia Cable to bring it to the small screen. So Terry's Tips, we've had 3 episodes, today is our 4th, and we're going to talk about touch-up. Touching up a hard surface, drywall, whether we're going to touch up a hard paneled wall, maybe a cabinet door, what paint to use, what tool. Do I need to really bring out the big guns and have a paintbrush, or might I just take a little Q-tip? And that's what we're going to talk about today. But there's a lot to discuss, and I'd like to be informative, so I'm going to go kind of in detail about some of the ins and outs of touch-up, what to do, what not to do. So, as we get started, I think one of the common calls I might get at the store would be, Terry, I touched up my surface, and boy, it just the color just doesn't look right. I'm pretty sure I got that Navajo white or that atrium or that taupe color that I use, but boy, I can just see that really pronounced. And I might ask, what sheen did they buy? So the sheen, the gloss level of the paint is kind of an important thing. If you're trying to touch up a dull finished living room wall with a flat, some of the new technology washable flat coatings, you really want to caution from getting that trim color or that shine. This is a display we've used at previous classes, and showing the amount of opacity. Some of the very popular colors today, yellows and reds particularly, don't have a lot of covering power. This is showing a red tinted primer, 1 coat on my wall, 1 coat of a very popular color called roasted pepper, and then I don't know if you can see the line here, but right about shoulder height to me is a diagonal line with another coat of roasted pepper. And then down below, we've done a kind of a faux finish stripe job, and rather than using that same paint in a semi-gloss, I particularly like to use a clear non-yellowing varnish to produce my detail, or in this case, kind of a Laura Ashley looking stripe. So I want to get the right paint, and the call came in, and oh, honey, I did the touch-up, but it's a little shinier, it's a little bit dull. Well, paints come in lusters. We have, think of us just a simple scale of 0 to 100. 0 being a flat finish, 100 points of shine being a high gloss. And this sheet kind of talks about that, and it shows it's not really just a color card as you see on the front, but on the back cover it shows sheen levels. And we've got satin, semi-gloss, eggshell, flat, matte, 6 different sheen levels. So 0 being a flat, no sheen, 100 being a high gloss. Just think of your kitchen and bathroom. Those are usually semi-glosses, so that would be about a 50 points of shine. Semi-gloss at 50, 0 being a flat. Now where does that eggshell finish come in? It's a washable finish, but it's got the sheen of literally a chicken egg. That's where it got its name, eggshell finish. It's about, 0 being flat, this is about a 20-degree shine. Out of 100 being a high gloss, 50 being a semi, that eggshell finish is about 20. Within brands, we're not really today talking about brands of paint, but within brands, there's been a marketing program. As long as we can get an eggshell finish for the customer, something that really washes, we can go as low a sheen as a 10, we can go as high a sheen as a 20 points of shine out of that 0 to 100 scale, and 20 is still an eggshell. Well, the duller the eggshell, 10 points of angular sheen really is the best bet. So you get the best of both worlds, a very washable surface, and yet it's that chicken egg luster. So if I have a shop make up their eggshell finish, they might have a 20-degree shine eggshell, and we at Muller's might use a 10-degree shine. And so that sheen can play a little bit of havoc when you're going to go to touch up. And you may have got the wrong luster. Right color, the right Navajo white, or in this case roasted pepper, but the wrong sheen level. So pay particular attention to the sheen of the paint that you're buying. 0, flat, eggshell, satin, semi, and gloss. Also, a real common concern that we have at the paint store on behalf of our customer is, and I'll get this question, when do I prime for my touch-up? Or when do I not prime? Kind of the latest buzz the last year or so has been self-priming paints, and we've done a printed form, Terry's tip, about self-priming paints, and we may take that to the small screen at a different class time. But think of a living room drywalled surface, drywalled home, and that living room has that dull finish on it. Not real hard, just kind of a little bit porous. Some of today's technology is a harder shell, so the flats now, we've even been able to do away with the eggshell. We've come out with a very scrubbable, very durable flat finish. But we've got that dull paint in the living room that isn't really, I would still stay a little bit on the porous side, versus our kitchen where we have a satin or a semi-gloss finish, something with a bit more shine, that 50-degree shine. Maybe you can see it here, about a 50-degree shine. And do I prime that area? Well, the living room paint is still a little bit porous, that wall. If I take a good shop primer, or a good primer from the store, go run down the hardware store and say, yeah, I think I'm supposed to prime, I want to do this job right. I want to be in, somebody had suggested maybe do these series in paint clothes, and what I want to share today is that, you know, we really don't want to bring out the big guns for our touch-ups. We want to just be in work clothes maybe and just work neatly, take a small little tool if you can and do your touch-up, do your repair. But so the flat paint, I think I'll just use my flat paint that I used in the living room, or my eggshell finish, something on the dull side, something still a little bit on the poor side, and I'll self-prime my drywall. I won't buy a primer. But if I'm in the kitchen and bathroom, like I mentioned, and I've got a good hard surface, I've got some sheen to that paint, I've got maybe 2 coats after the primer. When we built the home, we put 2 coats of satin or semi in the bathroom. Now we've redone the color a couple of times, and now I'm repairing that 5th coat. I've got a very hard, trim-like finish. Even though it's drywall construction, I've got a very sealed surface. And if I just go to get my semi-gloss paint out and do a little repair with drywall compound or spackling compound, and I fix the spot, and that surface is very hard, what's going to happen to my semi-gloss? It's going to come out very dull. There won't be any shine to it. And so even though I used the right paint, I really didn't prepare the surface. So we're going to kind of talk about preparation. And as I started the show and we talked about the layering of paints and those reds and yellows that really don't have a lot of hiding power, they get their final opacity, or they get their final finished look by layers. So the reds, you can just plan on 2 or 3 coats. It used to be 4 or 5, and we had to do the tinted primer. And today we've got that kind of advance, and so we'll make a foundation paint that has a better hiding, better opacity right in the can. So we can shorten that step and use less coats. But in this case, if I take my roasted pepper, I got the right one. I had my paint stored upside down. They said that at Terry's Tips, you know, store your paint upside down so it doesn't dry out. I flipped it over, I shake it up, and I use the transparent style roasted pepper. These both say roasted pepper on them, folks. And depending on when you bought it or where you bought it, if you came to Muller's and bought roasted pepper before 2005, it was in this neutral base where we needed many coats to get that hiding power. With reds being so popular, and I mentioned they've got some new high-hide red foundation cans, this is also roasted pepper. So, hey Terry, I got the roasted pepper. I was out, but make me a new quart. I made the new quart, but I'm in a red foundation base. And it's going to have much better covering power, and I go to touch it up, or I have the low hiding base, and I'm using that, and I might want to touch up a finish that has 3 coats on it, and I'm wondering why my paint comes up light. Well, the reason it comes up light needs more coats, so I may have to do my touch up 2 or 3 times, even though I've got the same paint I used on the job. I need to build that up. This hasn't been or wasn't an issue when our walls, a lot of walls were just off-white. We maybe had a tan or a taupe, but now with colors being sold and very, very popular in your home, you might have 6 or 8 different colors. The deeper the color, the more challenge this brings to the repair. So rather than getting out my paint clothes, like I mentioned, and I've got this vest on, I'm covering up my work shirt, Muller's Paint, but I want to show you that we can do this in just everyday office clothes. We don't have to get the big roller out in this case. We don't want to do this repair with a roller or really a brush because we're going to see where we fixed it. So what I'd like to say is just the simplicity of going to your bathroom, getting a Q-tip, getting that paint that is been stored on its top. I'm going to shake it, maybe bring it into the store, have them shake it, or just shake or stir it. Open that can up, and rather than having my brush out or my big roller and tray that gets kind of a lot more involved in my repair, I'm just doing this. I forgot, that's the last thing we wanted to do before the holiday or a get-together at the house, and I got to quick do it. So I'm going to shake that paint good. I'm going to take literally a Q-tip from the bathroom. I'm going to dab it in my, no drop cloths, no really anything. I'm in my work clothes. I'm going to take that Q-tip with my lid of my can, and I'm going to go right to this surface, and I'm going to touch up. Oops isn't a real good word in the paint business. You don't really want to say oops too many times. I'm going to just wipe off that excess off the front, and I just want to touch the surface. Remember, I don't want to get my brush out, dip in, for a couple of reasons. You're going to see that repair much more vivid or much more noticeable. We want to de-emphasize that it was fixed. We really don't want to draw attention to it, thus the Q-tip and just a small repair. If I were to get my brush out, I've got a rolled surface. I've got the stipple of a roller that I rolled the wall with. And I might have trimmed in the ceiling, but basically I'm trying to touch up a roll stipple, and I just have a little nick to do on the edge of the corner bead. We all have these little nicks. So again, just my Q-tip, and I don't want to go out onto the surface. If I do it with a roller or a big brush, it's going to be much more visible. And I'll show you in a minute a cabinet door that just came in for a touch-up, and I'll show how that was repaired and why it's here at the store to be done the second time. We just got it in today, but the reason it's here, and I can show you that. But there, now as that paint dries, it's going to come right into that color. If I'm in a case where I mentioned we need 2 or 3 coats, then we're going to have to let that dry a minimum of 4 hours. The darker the color, the longer it takes to dry, because it acts more like the ink that we put in to make it. A lot of color in that can, so it might take that overnight to really fully dry. But as that dry, most all your paints come out of the can lighter, dry to the finish that you've purchased. So no alarm initially, especially on a muddier color where it's going to just repair in one quick, easy Q-tip touch-up. You'll say, well, boy, did I get the right one or did I get the wrong sheen? Well, all paints have got luster when they're wet, and all paints, with few exceptions, are lighter and they dry darker. So no alarm, you're all set, you're ready to go. In this case, I'm going to probably come back tomorrow, deep color, slower cure, slower dry. I'm going to probably come back tomorrow, get that can out, give it a little fresh shake, get my Q-tip, and I'm going to go to that surface and just touch that corner bead. Now we can use that same Q-tip even in the situation of my kitchen cabinet. Now I'm going to clean up around the lip of this can. Actually, it's quite clean now. We really didn't get it too dirty, but I'm going to take a little paper towel. I'm going to take the excess paint out of the lip of that can. I'm going to seal it. Got the label, has where it was purchased, the date, the color, the finish is on the front, and I'm going to seal that can. Maybe get a rubber mallet or just use the palm of your hand, but get it good and sealed. And I'm going to take that can, and how am I going to store it? I'm going to flip it right on its top. I'm going to store that upside down. Why do that again? Air can't infiltrate that can. If I just leave it upright, even though I've sealed it, really not airtight. But now the paint has formed an airtight seal. This paint will be good 10 years, 20 years down the road for repair, stored upside down. Now when you go to open it, all your goodies are on the inside of that lid, not on the bottom, because we've got it on its top. So we're going to have to pay particular attention to get that mixed up well. And then I take my lid and I go to the wall and I touch it up, very simply. Now today this cabinet door was brought in, and the order was for a couple of matches they brought me in a couple of gallons and then this door. We figured out what the gallons were. We had made them a few years back. I'm going to look and see it, get the right side up here. And as that door came in, looks like maybe from someone's kitchen. It was, you know, looks like they had used the kitchen, it needed cleaning. And as I looked at that, my work order said satin or eggshell, and my employee put a question mark on it. So then whoever tints the paint, whether it's myself or one of the men at Muller's, were to assess the sheen level. Remember the flat, eggshell, satin, semi, or maybe even a high gloss, full gloss. You'll see that from time to time inside a home on cabinetry or on trim. Assess the sheen level, match the paint, and do your repair. In this case, all they really wanted to do was repair these broken edges of paint. Now the reason this one was breaking off, and I thought, well, that's an odd paint for that spot for that to fatigue. It wasn't around the doorknob, it was right here on this bevel. Well, it was a stain and varnished cabinet in its original manufactured state, and then someone has sprayed a lacquer-based paint. Lacquers tend to be a little bit more brittle. No real criticism, they're nice because they dry real quick, they're a spray application only. But as that cabinet moves, twists and turns a bit, the lacquer would be quicker than an oil or some of the new waterbornes to break away and actually chip off. But as I'm looking at this door today, I'm thinking, well, I'm going to first wash it because I need a good clean surface to do my touch-up. To even match the paint for the customer, I really need to wash it thoroughly. So I took a degreaser, diluted it 4 parts water, 1 part degreaser, very inexpensive. I washed it. I literally put this cabinet door under the slop sink and I rinsed it off with water. It doesn't hurt it at all. I think often people will tend to be a little ginger with a living room wall. They bought a good washable paint and they try and wash a spot off and they don't use enough water. So I washed this up good, just like a dish. The paint's designed to withstand that, but I had to clean it first. And then as I got it clean, under further inspection, I had seen when it was dirty, this top edge was shiny, and there was some shininess on this bevel. And I thought, well, what's up with that? And then I could see what looks like brush marks. This door is sprayed, but I saw brush marks. And I looked and I said, well, somebody's done a nice job matching it. Either they got the paint out of the basement, stored upside down, brought it up, and mixed it up, but they chose the wrong finish. It was maybe Navajo white, but it was the trim Navajo, not the living room paint or not the cabinet paint. So I could discern that, yep, good match, but the reason it came into the store is they needed to get the sheen, and that's why our note said, which sheen, question mark, discern that before we make it. So this was repaired once, and I don't know that you can see it with the camera, but it was repaired right here. Looks good, like I say, but way too shiny, and right along this top lip. Also, a repair has been done, wrong finish paint. Right color, wrong finish. Now, so I'm going to make this, get that repaired. I don't have this made just yet, but I'm going to literally take a Q-tip again, and prior to that Q-tip, I really don't want, as you can see this, there's paint down onto the front. And if the match isn't maybe 100% or that sheen is just a twitch different, our satin might be a little bit different than the brand of satin that was used on this cabinet or this lacquer finish like this particular cabinet door is. I really want to isolate that repair to that touch-up to just the repair area. So I'm going to take tape. We'll have another class on tapes, the inside kind of skinny and what can go wrong or right in the purchase of tape. Both of these tapes, and brands are, you know, everybody recognizes the blue, and I think there's at least a couple companies out there making blue. There's painter tape and green. Most of your colored tapes, purple, green, blue, those are all, tell that customer, good marketing, that that's a specialty paint, it's a painter's tape designed to do a better job than a traditional tan masking tape. But I'm going to take, in this case, I really don't want what we call traditional blue. I want an orange core or a sensitive blue. Now if you go to our shelf at this paint store and you see few different rows of blue tape, and they bring it up to the counter. I kind of qualify the sale and say, now, is this the tape that you want? Mine I want delicate. Because this paint was already starting to come off kind of on its own, not a real good bond to that stain when it was originally, like I'd mentioned, the varnished door, and then someone has painted it. It might not have been clean, might have been the wrong, something just didn't work out, because this shouldn't have happened, especially right here in this location. But I want to isolate that repair, so I'm going to take sensitive release tape, very thin. Most tapes have got a crepe, a wavy edge to them, and that's what unfortunately allows the seepage. This specialty tape is very thin, and it doesn't allow the creep underneath. And I'm going to tape off right above that bevel of that door, so that if I do get a brush out, in this case, or a Q-tip, you want to use one that hasn't got the roasted pepper on it. Get that Q, and I'm going to just touch that up. If I happen to get over, it's just going to be on the tape. It's not going to be on the front. So your repair is done much nicer, much more professional. Looks like you've hired somebody to come in, and literally you just took a Q-tip out of the bathroom, your paint, and you touched it up. If I were to go out and this repair wasn't on the corner, we get a little bit more involved, and we probably won't be able to cover it at this particular class or this particular tip. But I want to choose the right roller cover, and I really don't want to go out and, let's say I have a small repair right here where maybe just somebody nicked it and I got my spackle compound out. I repaired it. Do I get this big 9-inch one out? Do I get my paint clothes on? Do I get my big brush and do the repair with a big one? And my repair is only the size of a $50. No, get the same nap. Now, we talked about this in one of our previous classes on roll lightly, but you choose the nap like you would the size of your brush. You choose the right nap for the job. So if it was a semi-gloss paint, I might use a 1/4 nap roller cover, which is the pile height. Short nap. In this case, it's a, let's just say a living room wall with a dull paint, and we put that on with a 3/8 pile. We want to get the same nap cover to do my repair. Not the big 9-inch one, but I want to come into the paint store and I want to get a little 3-inch and do my repair and kind of feather out. I don't want that big footprint. I might even take one of the little minis, little 3-4-inch mini, and do my repair, not the big cover. So match your repair, keep it as isolated as you can, tape off the adjoining surface, so if you do get a little extra, in this case of this cabinet door, as soon as you're done, you don't wait for that paint to dry, but as soon as you're done, that's another point I don't want to forget, as soon as you're done, it's not going to hurt a thing, pull that sensitive release tape off. Now I can see, even with this sensitive release tape, as I'm pulling that off, I see a little white. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I see a little white on the back of this tape, which is designed for fresh and or paint that hasn't really adhered. If I were to just go in the paint shop, hardware store, and bought traditional blue, remember 2-style painter's tape, one's got really good adhesive to it, and its feature is you can put it on glass in the sunlight, and for 7 days you can take it off clean and won't hurt anything. But it's got aggressive adhesive on it, designed to stick to glass and so forth. That's really what it came out for, the traditional blue tape. If I were to have used that and taped this surface that's really kind of questionable, I would have got a lot more, and I probably would have hurt the finish more than it was when it came to us for a repair, or more than when the painter came to fix it, because as you can see, there's a little white paint on the back as I pulled even that sensitive release tape. So choose the right tape, get the right tools. Ask the professionals how I can do a job without really getting terribly involved, and you should get good counsel, and hopefully you can use this informational show to learn how to do it with a lot less effort. So I appreciate you listening, and I hope you've learned. If you would like to watch this or review this tip on touch-ups, you can also go to CaledoniaCable.org, and it's in written format. You can download it at home and just read kind of a paraphrase and some of the important points that we're discussing today on Terry's tip, CaledoniaCable.org. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll have you check back in for the next class.